Good morning and welcome to today's verse. Today's verse comes to us from the book of Philippians, Philippians chapter 4, verse 9, and I will read it. It says, "The things which you learn and receive and heard and saw in me, these do, and the God of peace will be with you." Here we have the Apostle Paul giving an encouraging word to the church at Philippi. It's a word of admonishment. It's a word of instruction. He is challenging them to live right before God. And he says, follow my example. You might think it's kind of arrogant of the Apostle Paul to say, follow my example, as if I am the example of what right living is all about. Well, he was, because God had empowered the apostles to live right before him, that they might be an example for others. See, they didn't have the Bible. They wasn't running around with their own copy of King James, the New English Standard Version of the Bible, whatever. They received their example through the apostles. They received the word of God through the apostles. Yes, they had the Old Testament, but everybody wouldn't run around with their copy of the Old Testament. It wasn't mass produced. So they would continue, as the Bible tells us in the book of Acts, after Peter's great sermon, how they would continue in the apostles' doctrine, in the breaking of bread, fellowship, and in prayer. And so they would follow their example. God had equipped them and empowered them. And Paul wouldn't just say, follow me, but he said, follow me as I follow Christ. Christ was his example. And that was the example that the early Christians were to follow as well. But notice what the verse that comes before this verse, I think that is very interesting, that empowers Paul, that empowers us, that we might live rightly before God, because we need to have our thought life where it ought to be. Notice what he says in verse 8. "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are good, or of a good report, if there is any virtue, if there's any praise, thing that is praiseworthy, think upon these things. Don't you know that right thinking leads to right behavior?" And Paul was one that would have right thinking in place, because his whole desire was to honor God and to serve God and to please God in every aspect of his life, even unto death. And so he did. So he was able to say, not with a sense of arrogance, but really a sense of humility, follow me as I follow Christ. So the things that the church had received and heard and saw in him, they were to do. And the result of that is that the God of peace would be with him, would be with them. To God be the glory for the great things he has done. I pray that as you go throughout this day, that you have a safe day, and then tune in again tomorrow. Yes, as we consider today's verse.